It's time to take a look at one of the most anticipated updates in Hypixel Skyblock history. An update that will be teased for years upon years. I'm really just interested to see if that particular update actually has lived up to expectations, and if it hasn't, what is the reasoning for it? When Hypixel release updates on Skyblock, it's a little bit of a mixed bag. Some of them seem rushed, and some of them you've been waiting for so long it's just a little bit ironic. For instance, when the pet car update was released, it honestly did feel rushed. There was huge bugs that led to ridiculous wipes, a pet leveling system that quite honestly can't have really been tested too much because it was terrible. Granted, it's a little bit better now. And yeah, I just kind of get the impression that it was a little bit rushed. And you have other updates like the addition of the Crimson Isles. Now, though, the Crimson Isles has been out for a while now. However, I mean, it is really good, and it didn't really seem rushed at all. When it actually dropped, everything kind of just works flawlessly. Now, granted, there's going to be a few bugs here and there, and the Crimson Isles can sometimes be a little bit unplayable due to TPS, but that seems to have got better recently. But this is kind of understandable. As time goes on, I guess different people and new people are gonna basically come on the development team. And of course, you know, people aren't robots, everyone's gonna do things slightly differently. But today, it's time to talk about the Rift update. It's almost been 10 months since we first saw the Rift on the alpha server, and 9 months give or take since it released. I must say that Hypixel must have known that they were taking a big risk with this update. It had been teased for a long time. However, they were creating a whole different experience in a whole different realm where you could transfer certain items, but not all items, so that means anyone with progress on the main server or just regular Hypixel Skyblock didn't really have progress on the Rift. Now, I actually redid the Rift not long ago, probably about a month ago for some Skyblock XP on my main profile because I hadn't touched it. And to be honest, I was really confused and a bit shocked to see that majority of the lobbies that I was getting into had no more than 6 or 7 people. While sure, this may have just been the time of day or just simply getting lucky or unlucky for that case, that first made me think, wow, people really don't play the Rift. But when you think about it, it kind of makes sense. Anyway, more on that in just a moment. If you are planning on purchasing anything from the Hypixel store, make sure to use code NITROS, it gets yourself 5% off. You should subscribe to the channel. If you watch the videos and you haven't subscribed, please make sure to do so. You should join the Discord server, it's linked in the description of this video. We offer slayers and dungeon carries, so if you need carries or want to carry and make some coins, make sure to join. Now, to understand why there was so much hype around the Rift update, you've kind of got to understand the lore behind it. The Wizard Tower is just a tower in the hub, and it always has been. The Wizard Tower has strong links with the Mayor Barry. Each time Barry was elected, the Wizard's dialogue would decrease in number of business days required to fix the Wizard Portal. Once this reached 24 business hours, Barry stopped running as Mayor and moved to the Wizard Tower to help fix the portal. Now, quite obviously, Barry can no longer be elected, and resides in the Rift Dimension, in the Plaza, in Barry's HQ. Just before the Rift was actually introduced, there was a city project. Similar to the pet car expansion, we basically had to donate in order to open the Rift. But that's where the first problem arose for me. We all know what the actual city project was for, and a lot of people just simply didn't participate. The city project would have taken way too long to fill, so the admins basically just decreased the requirements for it to be filled so that the Rift could open early. But the sheer lack of interest from the people in the community, to me, was just a little bit concerning. Like, the city project was reduced in requirements multiple times, and there was still absolutely nowhere near actually getting it until they just basically opened it. You might be thinking, well, people might just not have known what it was for, you know, they didn't realise it was to open the Rift and they didn't know what the Rift was, but that just can't be the case because the Rift was on the alpha several times prior to this. So people 100% knew what the Rift was all about. However, having said that, the Rift is not a bad update. The Rift is actually brilliant. It's got a very unique system, so to actually enter the Rift, you've got to pay bits, or you've got to exchange Grant Experience bottles, which is a little bit different. Of course, then you're granted access to the Rift, and there's so much to do. The more you progress through the Rift, the more Rift time you have. At the moment, I have 44 minutes, and when you press enter the Rift, you have a fraction of that. There's unique mobs that you have to kill in order to upgrade items. There's also a unique currency in modes. You can transfer transferable items over to the overworld and back into the Rift. There is unique lore and storyline, and honestly, the amount of lore dropped in this update is absolutely insane. There is actually really unique systems in the Rift. Like, where else in Skyblock is there something, I guess, as intricate as that? I mean, that's pretty cool. They're really pushing the limits of what they can do, I guess, on Minecraft, which is really cool to see. There are some really cool puzzles and mobs that you encounter along the way, including multiple bosses, which help you upgrade items, gain time charms, and just further your experience on the Rift. There's some incredibly unique tasks that you basically have to complete in order to progress through the Rift, and actually it can be quite fun. The Mirrorverse is something we have never seen anything like before. I mean, look at this. This is Minecraft. This is actually really cool. I do hate the Mirrorverse so much. Not because it's bad, just because I'm really bad at it. Nevertheless, look at these pest mechanics. I'm sorry, but it is just so different that it's good. It just is, and it just is interesting. You've got a teleportation system that you have to unlock along the way. A living cave is something that we have never seen before. It's absolutely crazy, and it's really, really cool. There's even interactive and moving, basically, mobs that you have to kill, but mine. It's just... The Rift is just very unique, that's what I'm trying to say. When you get to the castle, it's even got its own Slayer. But having said all this, it's unfinished. The Rift released, not finished, which I just find a little bit strange, considering there was obviously a lot of time put into this update, and, you know, a lot of careful thinking, surrounding different areas, making sure that everything works and runs smoothly, but there is a missing area, which I just don't really understand. I mean, I would have just thought if they'd put so much time into, like, building this update, that it would just release as a finished product. And still to this day, the best part of, what, 2/3 of a year later, we're still not able to access the mountaintop. I have made a video in the past looking at the lore surrounding the mountaintop and potentially what it could bring. A lot of NPCs along the way in the Rift do mention it, however it's not really clear cut what it actually is or what it could be or what it could do. Some people even speculated that, well, maybe it's already in the game, but we just have to unlock it. But, you know, in the 8 or 9 months that the Rift has been around, nobody has figured that out. If that even is the case. And to be honest, if it was the case, then it's really well hidden, but it would be pretty cool if somebody just randomly found it. I'd prefer that explanation a lot more than it just wasn't finished. But what I'm trying to say is the Rift is a great update. It really is. When you combine all the different elements, maybe the ups and the downs, it's mostly good. And to be honest, except from probably the first area, the woods, I probably quite enjoyed actually doing the Rift. However, I think it definitely does have its issues. While there are and has been quite a few money-making methods surrounding the Rift, you know, regarding grinding in the Rift and transferring items back, maybe crafting things and selling them on the Bazaar or AH, for the most part, they're usually quite good. So they get saturated really quickly, people start doing them a lot, therefore your rates decrease and don't become really worth doing anymore. Having said that, if you do grind it out, you definitely can still make a decent amount of money from the Rift. But for most people in Hypixel Skyblock, they just see it as a free 6 or 7 Skyblock levels. Exchange a few hours of your time, progress through the Rift, and then never touch it ever again. And to be honest, I'm of that philosophy too. I think a lot of later game players also probably are just not wanting to do the Rift, just purely because they have so much on the main profile, and if they go to the Rift they're going to have nothing and they have to start again. Now of course that doesn't mean you have nothing forever, you can of course gain items and you don't lose anything on, you know, the overworld. But I think the fact that the Rift is so disconnected from the rest of the game makes it though people just kind of get Skyblock XP and forget about it. Now, if that's how it was intended to be, then that's fine. But for the most part, the lobbies in the Rift, well, from my experience, are kind of deserted. You know, once majority of people have spent like 15 hours completing the Rift, or 10 hours, or however efficient you are, then it's done. There will be a small percentage of people who spend slightly longer there with money-making methods, but I just feel like the Rift is missing something, and that something might be the mountaintop, but it's not here. Also, the fact that Vampire Slayer is so short of a grind as well. And honestly, Vampire Slayer makes, when you actually think about it, it just doesn't make sense at all. We have Slayers like Tarantula, which only have 4 tiers, which have been in the game for years, and to be honest, we don't really see the light at the end of the tunnel for a tier 5. And for Wolf Slayer, it's exactly the same thing. You know, the tier 5 Wolf Slayer has been rumoured to come out with a foraging update. Oh, who knows when the foraging update is going to come out at this point? It just isn't coming out anytime soon, is it? Vampire Slayer has 5 tiers of Slayer, however, the max level takes way shorter to get to. Maybe this is I mean, surely it's as intended, but it just seems a little bit strange why they would release 5 tiers of this, but 4 tiers of this, this, and this, and this. But yeah, I don't know, it's just a mess. And like I said before, if this is as intended, where people can spend 15-20 hours maxing out the Rift, and then never touch it ever again, then fair enough. However, I think it's really strange to tease an update for years upon years, and obviously spent a lot of time developing it, new systems. It's not like a standard Hypixel Skyblock update. This is a really huge, probably one of the biggest Hypixel Skyblock updates ever to release. And only want people to spend 15 to 20 hours on there just doesn't make a lot of sense. But that is going to just about wrap up today's video. I hope you all have enjoyed. If you have, make sure you do leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.